Young Barry might have wound up in show business. His father, Joe, did arranging and conducting for Nat King Cole back in the 60s. His mother, Roberta, was one of Cole's backup singers. But Joe had another career in mind for his son, one that had a sweet sound all its own. Fresh out of college, Barry Zito was on fire. He was a star with the Oakland A's. In 2002, he went 23-5 and won the Cy Young Award as the American League's best pitcher. When he was signed by the San Francisco Giants in 2007, he became the highest-paid pitcher in Major League history. But that kind of professional success makes it easier to fall victim to some personal pitfalls.
I think, too focused on just purely the self and not as much God. And in my profession, it's easy to do where you start to think that you're holier than thou. And, a lot of people are screaming your name or talking this or that. And, sometimes it's easy to believe in the hype that you're immortal or, even just for a fleeting moment, it's easy to buy into.
But fame is fickle. And the next few years had their ups and downs. Take the fall of 2010, a big up for the Giants. But for Barry, not so much.
Our team went to the World Series and won it, and I wasn't pitching in the playoffs. I had pitched the whole season and was struggling at the end of the season pretty bad. And, most teams take 4 starting pitchers into the playoffs. And so I wasn't one of those 4. But it was very difficult to watch a lot of the, kind of coworkers, teammates of mine go and achieve something that I wanted to achieve my whole life, and I didn't get to take part in it.
But in baseball, disappointments are part of the game, like they are in life generally. So Barry dug in and spent the off-season working and training. As the new season began, he felt his prospects looking up. But then
the team plane landed in LA, and I was driving from the airport to my home, and right in the same intersection that I'd been driving in for years, this taxi cab hits me broadside.
911, what's your last-minute emergency?
Hi, there's a car accident on the corner of Sunset Plaza Drive and Sunset Boulevard. The cab just ran the red light and ran into a silver SUV.
Okay, are there any injuries?
Okay, the guy in the car is sitting. Doesn't look like he can get out right now. That's the driver. It was a really hard hit, like the car got off the ground.
And that was on a Thursday night, and I had to pitch Sunday.
Barry Zito is a little sore from the car accident. We're having some tests done. He's going to get a MRI done today, and after we evaluate those tests, then we'll have a better idea where we're at with him. But he's optimistic that he's going to be fine and make his start.
And the Sunday game was an ESPN game. It was at 5 o'clock in Dodger Stadium. And I was determined to, get through it somehow. And I flew in a bunch of therapists and chiropractors from different cities, and they were working on me all weekend.
Barry made his start, struggling at first, but then retiring 15 consecutive batters during his last 5 innings. But then just 2 weeks later,
I was pitching in Arizona, and the pitcher was up, and he went to bunt. And so I went to dive for it, and I just jumped off my right foot, strange, and I felt this pop.
It was a torn ligament. And not just any torn ligament. It was one that was very unusual for a baseball player to injure.
They say it's a pretty serious injury. The Liz Frank ligament, when totally torn, requires surgery, and it could be like a 12-month thing. And so this was, again, something so jarring. I'm like, gosh, now I was in this car accident, and 2 weeks later I get this injury. Something greater is happening. I don't know what it is.
Barry found himself on the disabled list for the first time in his career. It gave him time, not just for rehab, but some reflection.
What came to me in those times is that I needed to really commit to a belief in something greater. I needed to commit to a faith in something unseen, which is the difficult part, I think, for all of us, because it's easy to have faith if, God were to appear right in front of us and say, see, I told you I'm here, and, but when it's unseen, it takes a little more commitment and dedication. That was what I felt was calling me, was something greater was saying, sit back on the sidelines, start thinking about your life, start thinking about what you want out of life on the deeper levels.
So that's what Barry did. He started by combing the shelves of his local bookstore.
I was picking up tons and tons of books and reading tons of books and looking for the answers, really.
But his wife, Amber, his fiancée at the time, suggested a different approach.
She always inspired me to look inside for the answers instead of looking outside, looking in books, and she said, lock your books up, and I want you to just focus on one book right now, which is the Bible. And I said, I'm in.
A few months later, he was back on the field with a healed foot and a healed heart.
I really committed to Jesus officially with our team chaplain up there, and it was in the family room, they call it, in the stadium in San Francisco, and it was during a Bible study, which I was starting to go to pretty routinely then. And I made that commitment, and it was amazing. One of the big scriptures for me at that point was Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and rely not on your own understanding. It gave me peace to know that I could trust in God. I didn't have to figure it out. I can take a deep breath, I can relax. All these judgments I have on myself or resentments of myself for not being this or that, it's all unfolding in the way it should. And that was a big component for me because I had been in such disarray mentally and always dragging myself through things. Why weren't you this? Why weren't you that? You could have been better.
And if self-doubt is the gasoline, the critics in the stands and the press box are the matches.
It causes this self-consciousness that I think a lot of people don't experience on a day-to-day basis. And it completely gets you out of your connection with God, because now it's about what does he think, what does she think, what is this? And I think all people can relate to giving too much power to people's opinions.
And that's when Barry made a discovery that every believer has to make. That no matter how much talent you have, no matter what you do or how much you make, no matter how hard you work, none of us has the power to do enough, to be enough. At least not the way we define enough.
But I think what God was asking me to do is say, I don't care about all that stuff. Take your eyes, look up to, higher above the earth and above the flesh and blood, and realize that, you are enough because I gave you these gifts. Don't squash them, honor them. Know that these gifts are for a reason, and accept the gift. And it was more about glorifying God with my pitching. So every day I went to the field and was feeling that and very connected.
Barry Zito, in his finest hour in a Giants uniform, goes out tonight and he absolutely stuffs this great hitting Cardinal team. He could not have been better. He was brilliant.
Was very in the moment and went into the game saying, God, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'm going to do all I can do.
And a week later, Barry's lifelong dream came true.
Posey hangs on, and that's the first strikeout of the night for Barry Zito.
I started game one of the World Series against Justin Verlander, who was, had all the hype and all these things, and we did really well.
How about Zito?
We need to push off into that uncomfortable place and say, God, I cannot do this alone. I've tried. I have proof that I haven't been able to do it on my own, and I really need you right now. And a lot of times he'll bring us and drag us through the mud for a while before we get to that point where we're on our knees and we're surrendering. We'll fight tooth and nail for our own, illusions of control. But when we can just give it up, it always works out.